for the motor mount that I made here, I'm actually using factory chassis screws here, so it's always nice when you don't have to drill a hole in a new part when you want to replace it. Just something I do. Alright, so this is how we pull the engine. Disconnect the engine mount, the other side. I'm doing it this way because the TLR pipe with the 3 little springs, it's kind of tricky to get the inside one. So I'll show you guys what this is. I'll just pull it all as one unit here, as we can see. There's our engine. All right, so the mount I made, 4mm slotted holes. Have to have some kind of adjustment. There's, ironically, it's an HPI engine mount, but it's also used on a Kyosho Scorpion. So take your pick, same part. That's basically what I used. Roto start is on the back here. Easy to go. Clutch, I'm actually using the Kyosho MP10 flywheel and 3-shoe clutch. This is a Robinson 19-tooth pinion gear, just as big as I could reasonably get it. So the combo would be 1944. We're gonna see where that gets us. All right, so pretty much that easy. The engine's out. I'll turn the truck around. We'll come in here. So things that I've made, this is the throttle for the, I don't know what you want to call it, but the Savage alloy bell crank for the throttle. So this is a mount, again, just versus drilling holes. It's where it wanted to be, so I just made a little piece that bolts to factory holes. No drilling. There's the other side of it. You can see, we can see my other chassis brace at the top here. I'll pull the exhaust mount out of it. Another part I had to make. It was a very simple piece. Just allows me, this is actually a low-C, I don't know what it's from. I think it's an 8T2. Not sure. Muffler mount. Okay, we can pull the radio box out now. So you can see how everything has been made. It's actually made to mount to the stock thing. All I did was just cut off the ESC mount. And there's your receiver box. Okay, all integrated into my upper chassis supports, which to me, it's a nice thing to have to mount things to. So we'll pull these pieces out. Now, I will say a lot of the pieces that I hand machined here, I mean, for the purpose they're serving, you know, a guy that's good with 3D printing easily could do this. Same idea. Engine mount, I would still like alloy because of the heat, but you know, it's a lot of guys add a lot of bling to their trucks anyway, so this is just part of it. All right. So here's one upper. This would be the left side. It's machined to key into the curvature of the chassis, so about as nice as I could make that. All right. Take out the servo mount, same way. Same piece, just left a servo mount into it for the throttle. All right. Okay. So we can start to see, I'll get this wiring out of the way. There's your Revo trans. Okay. I think I'll just pull the rear suspension out of it. One thing that might be a little bit hard to see, but see if I can zoom in here. The upper link on this side, it just is slightly actually into the Robinson spur gear. Like it doesn't hit or anything, but just the end of the rod end. That's how tight I kept everything in here. I've mentioned online that, you know, not a millimeter to spare. That's exactly what I'm talking about. So separate the rear chassis here. And there we go. And we'll just separate the back half. Nuts and bolts and parts flying everywhere. Woohoo. Alright. There's not a whole lot to talk about in the back. You guys saw the sway bar mount that I ended up making here. Reason being is that where the stock sway bar would mount, I'm right into the side of the engine, so I had absolutely no choice. All of these holes are blocked by the engine mount in the engine, so you know, it just made more sense to mount it back here. It'll work with a stock wheelie bar, T-reel, whatever you want to do, just bolts right in. That's how I made it. When you make stuff, you can make it serve your purpose. All right, so getting a little closer. Let's pull these headers. No, I had to extend these. These are just Kyosho shock mount bushings. Maybe it's hokey, but they do the job. Reason being, spur gear. So it sticks out the side of the chassis, so there's interference there. So I just spaced out the headers. You really almost can't tell. And what you do to one side, do to the other. Same. Moving right along. So here's the back of the Revo transmission. The transmission itself is locked, but apparently you can add a center diff if you want to do it. Nice feature. Right in here is where the rear brake kit would mount. If you want to have rear disc brakes, that's something I would have to adapt to work with the MIP drive shaft, but anything's possible. Chassis itself, we can see it's been cut here. Okay, so I reinforced it with these heavy gusset plates. What you do on one side, do on the other, even though on this side the only holes I had to make was just the new hole for the suspension pivot. I added the plates because there's not a lot of material in here for strength. All right, nice touch. Not easy pieces to make, but once they're in, they're good to go. All right, let's pull the front.